129 men walked into the Arctic, and not one came back. For decades, Britain said the answer was simple. They froze. Then scientists found the bones, and the official story cracked open. Under the microscope, the Arctic was not the killer. Something inside the expedition was. The nightmare began with confidence, money, and the best technology the Empire could buy. Two ships, Erebus and Terror, were built to survive almost anything. Steam engines, water distillers, a library, and 3 years of food. It looked impossible to fail. But the Arctic does not care what an empire believes. By September 1846, the ships were trapped, locked into ice like insects in glass. No battle, no stormrek, just pressure, darkness, and time. And somewhere in that silence, the strongest naval expedition of its age began to come apart. This is where the first minute turns from history into a locked room disaster. In 1845, Sir John Franklin was ordered to find the Northwest Passage. A short route through the Arctic could connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Franklin carried 129 elite men of the Royal Navy. They sailed away with cheers behind them and a blank white world ahead. Then the letters stopped. No rescue message. No survivor. No final explanation. The expedition seemed to vanish from the planet. But in 1859, a search party reached King William Island. Among the rocks, they found a tin cylinder. Inside was the only surviving written record of Franklin's final command. Then the margins told the truth. By April 1848, the ships had been abandoned. 24 men were already dead, including Franklin himself. The remaining 105 survivors walked south. And this is the question that still makes no sense. Why leave warm ships full of food? The answer begins 2 years earlier, inside the ice prison. For almost 2 winters, men lived at -40 with no movement and no hope. Then the evidence points to a poison hidden in their survival plan. In the 1980s, Canadian anthropologist Owen Beatty examined bodies on Beechey Island. The cold had preserved the sailors with terrifying precision. Tissue samples showed lead levels hundreds of times above normal. The men may have been poisoning themselves every time they ate. Lead attacks the body, but it also attacks judgment. In a frozen ship, bad decisions can become a death sentence. But lead was only the beginning. Scurvy, starvation, and isolation broke the crew from the inside. When researchers studied bones from King William Island, they found precise cut marks. These were not animal bites. They were knife marks made by human hands. The Franklin expedition reached the final stage of cannibalism. DNA and isotope studies later supported what the bones were already saying. In their final months, survivors ate the dead to stay alive for a few more days. It did not save them. The march south became one of the darkest scenes in exploration history. At -50, they hauled boats packed with useless objects. Silver spoons, books, silk handkerchiefs, a museum of bad decisions on a sled. Inuit witnesses later described starving white men walking in silence. When someone fell, the others did not lift him. They may not have had the strength to speak. 105 men started that walk. None reached safety, but the ships created a new mystery. If everyone died on land, how did the wrecks end up where they were found? In 2014, underwater archaeologists found Erebus. In 2016, they found Terror, 80 kilometers away. The wrecks were not scenes of chaos. Cabins looked preserved, almost carefully closed. The ships had been abandoned, but not simply destroyed. Ice drift models suggest one ship should not have reached its final position alone. That leaves a chilling possibility. Someone may have returned. After the march began, a small group may have gone back to the ships. Maybe they tried to sail again. Maybe they were already doomed. Today, Parks Canada archaeologists return to the wrecks year after year. The cold, oxygen-poor water may have preserved paper for centuries. Inside Crozier's cabin, the desk may still hold the last written answers. Logbooks, notes, a final line written by a shaking hand. The question is whether we can read them before the ocean takes them apart. The Arctic took their lives, but left behind one of history's darkest experiments. If this story gave you chills, hit like now. Subscribe, because next we go to the South Pole with Robert Scott, where men died only steps from rescue. Until then, remember this. Some mysteries are not hidden because they are lost. They are hidden because the ice is still keeping its mouth shut.